Hello everyone, and welcome to the Do-It-Yourself Gourmet. Today, we're going to be making the rub for St. Louis pork spare ribs. What we have got is ground white pepper, ground cumin, ground coriander, and ground star anise. Over here, we've got a little bit of diluted calamansi juice. We've got fish sauce and a touch of Vegemite, and then we have canola oil with a hint of olive. What we're going to do is put the dry ingredients in first and get them nice and mixed together. And now when I grind this, I grind it with a bit of salt. That way it helps to smash up the seed and grind up the herb a little bit better, and it also helps the salt to become a bit more pulverized and more easily incorporated. Now, there are two keys here, because with the fish sauce and the Vegemite and the calamansi juice, they're going to be applied after. What we'll do first is pour in our canola and olive oil mixture and let it get soaked up a bit. We're going to let the flavors infuse there, because the fish sauce and Vegemite helps to spread the flavor with a bit of salt. And then the diluted calamansi juice works to fix the flavor in place once they've been marinated a little bit. So it's kind of a multi-step process to really develop the flavor properly. What we got here is the mixture of canola oil, olive oil, ground cumin, white pepper, coriander, star anise with sugar, and a bit of salt. Now you can adjust salt to your own liking. We got 10 minutes past that since we added the Vegemite and fish sauce. We're going to give that a nice stir and make sure it's incorporated. That'll have given the herbs and the spices and the sugar and the salt a chance to get itself nice and incorporated. And so what we'll do is we're going to give it a straight pour over on top of everything here. And then we'll start using the brush and the spatulas to work it around as we go along. So, without further ado, we'll take this, pour it along. We'll get that brush out there to help get it all nice and even. We've got the spatula, definitely important because food is a precious resource and we do not wish to waste such things. So, we get that spatula inside there. Get that last little bit wiped off. Go ahead and put that to the side for a moment or three. And now we get to start playing with the sauce and the ribs just a little bit. Your hands might get a little dirty. Feel free to get tongs, but don't be surprised if they get a little bit of sauce on them. So work it around. Make sure it gets brushed in. And that'll get the flavor starting to move everywhere. You let it soak in. This is probably a good 3 or 4 pounds of short ribs. So this mixture will make about 3 or 4 pounds of marinade for whatever you got cooking. You can put this marinade on a whole rack of ribs, a half rack of ribs, or the short ribs as we see here. It'll just vary the amount of marinade that you end up using, which is perfectly fine. You can store it for a bit. Just make sure and keep the citrus separate until you're ready to activate it towards the end. And that'll be one of the secrets of how we do our ribs here, is keeping that citrus just till the end, because the citrus kind of locks in the flavor. And in locking in the flavor, well, you tell it not to go anywhere. And so we want to make sure that that flavor goes everywhere up until the point that we're ready to start locking it down, about 10 minutes before we start cooking it up. That was about 1/4 cup of canola oil, 1/4 cup of olive oil, probably about 1/2 tablespoon of cumin, 1/2 tablespoon of the star anise, and then also 1/2 tablespoon of each of coriander and white pepper. And you mix that in, probably with about a teaspoon of salt on each one. And then you grind it together, and that'll give you enough salt most of the times that it has all the flavor set. And you don't need to add any more. But if you find it lacking a little bit, feel free. Marinade's going to sit in the bottom there. You're going to pull it up and around now. We're going to give it a good 10 minutes or so. Let it sit at this point since we've gotten most of the marinade up and around. After 10 minutes, we'll see how it looks. Maybe we'll move it around, lock it in with the citrus. Otherwise, we'll marinate it a little longer after flipping it around. Okay, it is time to get the brush, the fork, or the tongs, and to start moving the meat around, making sure it has been properly marinated. It's been another 10 minutes since we last checked back in it. It's looking pretty good. We've got the juicy bits on the bottom that we're taking up and pulling towards the top. We're going to do that a few times because that helps to let the oils run down the rest of the meat, and that helps spread the flavorful goodness. There we go. On top of there, we're going to add what we have is the diluted calamansi juice, which is about a tablespoon of calamansi juice mixed in with about, I'd say, what is this, about a half a cup, maybe 2/3 a cup of water. And calamansi juice is pretty powerful stuff, so you can use it somewhat sparingly. We won't use the whole amount. We'll save that in case we need to add any extra. But this is definitely where we're going to mix it up nice and strong. That way the flavor gets everywhere as it should, so that we can enjoy it once we put these lovely bits into the fire. So put your timers on for another 10 minutes. After you mix this around, make sure and use that brush. Now has come one of the better parts. We are going to get this laid out onto the pan. It is time to get these buggers into the oven. I like doing them with the tendony bits, the sinew and the fat side up first so that the juices go downward before we flip it over and roast it upward. There we go. Get them all nice and cozy together. We got one more and a little end tail piece that we will put sideways and most likely turn into our tester. After that, we're going to find ourselves pouring this little bit of juice right on over the top, sprinkling it a little bit of everywhere. Make sure that stuff gets in for when it cooks off and gets reduced in. With that, we're going to stick it in a 450-degree oven. You'll have wanted to preheat that, and then we'll put them in there for about 15 minutes on one side, 15 minutes on the other, and then we'll lower the heat down to about 260 degrees, after which we'll cook it for a good solid 60 minutes, and then turn it back up to 375 or 400 degrees. And after it reaches that point of 400 degrees, then we broil it off with a nice little bit of open fire from the top. And we're going to open that oven up, get those ribs slid in, and get our first timer set for 15 minutes. We are back and ready to flip these ribs over for just another few minutes, and then we'll turn them down low and let the slow heat do its work. We'll give them another 15. Actually, we'll give them 10, and then we're going to turn the heat down. And on the way down, the heat can help it out from the back inside. Put our timer on for another 15 minutes, and we'll check back then. Here we are. Our timer has finished. Our ribs are coming out, and we have got ourselves some deliciously spiced St. Louis style pork spare ribs. Do it yourself gourmet, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.